Selecting the right optional subject for the UPSC exam can be a daunting task, especially if you're aiming to succeed on your first attempt. But what if there's a crucial element that could make all the difference? That element is continuous answer writing practice. At Vijeta IAS Academy, our Anthropology Optional Foundation program offers a comprehensive approach. Not only will you delve deeply into the subject matter, but you will also engage in daily and weekly answer writing exercises. Each of your answers will be meticulously reviewed and critiqued by NP Kishore sir, ensuring you receive personalized feedback to enhance your skills. This approach has already helped many students achieve impressive marks and ranks, such as Akanksha Singh, 311 marks in Anthro CSE 2022. Chaudhary Shipra Vijay Kumar, 307 marks in Anthro CSE 2022. Ajin Kumar, who cracked UPSC in his first attempt, and many more. With daily feedback and structured practice, you will be well prepared to succeed in the UPSC examination. With our focused feedback and structured practice, you'll be well equipped to improve your performance and boost your chances of securing a top rank in the CSE. Don't wait any longer. Enroll in Vijeta IAS Academy today and unlock the proven success formula for conquering the UPSC exam.
Am I visible to everybody?
Yes.
So, as you all know, I am Akanksha Singh. I have secured 339 rank in 2022 CSE, and I got 311 marks, 167 plus 144 in paper 1 and paper 2. I am aware that this is the exam is just around the corner, so I won't take unnecessary time of yours, and I will also ensure that I have kept particular note of the fact that content enrichment at this time is not possible. So all my guidance and tips from my side to you would be of how to use your content knowledge, your current content and knowledge for value addition and for getting even more marks with the current set of knowledge you have. So I'll share my screen with you all. I have made a presentation. Maybe towards the end, if time permits, we can have a question answer round. Are you guys able to see this? Oh, so I thought I'll start it with a lighter note. Some 30,000, 20,000 years back, people were painting caves and rocks in order to hope that we will secure our career with those paintings. So I have planned this presentation in a way that I guide you for what you will do right after your GS4 paper till the time your till the night your language paper is on. So I'll start with the revision between your GS and optional paper. So your GS will end on GS4 will end on Sunday evening, and I have planned this lecture to tell you how you can spend your Sunday evening se leke till your next Sunday before your next optional paper. So first and foremost, I have to tell you that this is a very important period, and this is the period where we will revise our entire notes, and these notes will serve one very important purpose apart from the understanding of anthropology which we have had from all the years we have been studying. This is the period where your memory will work a lot, like just the topic you will immediately see before these days you will certainly remember because your muscle memory or eye memory will work. And that's why I had very small crisp revision notes for these days. In case some of you don't have a compressed version of your notes or smaller notes for these days, I want to ensure that even I did not have. When I was writing mains, I had three. So when I had three big copies to revise, and I did not have small notes, and I was actually feeling very anxious as to how I will revise all this in a week time. So I ensured that I made very small notes just simultaneously while I was revising. So what I did was I kept an A4 sheet papers with me, and I just wrote the very important value addition things there. Just the examples, the very particular examples, the name of anthropologist, the year of their work names, the year everything I just wrote in 14 pages. So three big copies were compressed in 14 pages, and I ensured that I keep revising and rereading these two notes, especially in the last 3 days. I'll show you how I made those notes. And if you do not have small notes already made, this is how maybe you can make. So if you can see on the leftmost image, I made this for all the units. Like, so for example, this is paper 2, tribe caste continuum. I just wrote FGB, FG Bailey, tribe caste nation 1960, Surajit Sinha, tribe caste and tribe peasant continue and central India 1965, FG Bailey, Khonds, Udia, Panos, Surajit Sinha, Hill, Maria, Gond, Bhumich. All the names and examples I want to just remember for this particular topic. I wrote in the shortest way possible so that I can revise maximum times and I can remember finally. As you can see in the second image also, this is how compressed I wrote for this thing, the development of anthropology in India. I just made the diagram I want to make, I just made it in the smallest size possible so that I can remember it. 1774 Asiatic Society of Bengal, 1912 Munda in their country, 1920 Calcutta University Department of Anthropology. So just to tell you that I made all the units, I compressed all of the units in the shortest way possible, writing just the examples, just the name of anthropologist, their work, the year, some important concepts which I want to remember for the exam, all the units I covered in 14 pages. These are another pictures from my notes. So I know many of you would be doing this only, but you can divide the page into two halves only to uh, so just the very important things you want to remember for each topic. Yes, so I was telling you that just dividing the page in two halves so that I have least number of notes. uh, is somebody saying anything? Anyway, so we will have least number of notes possible for pages possible for revision. This I made so that, and I revised them as many times as possible. I don't remember, but I am sure I must have revised them more than 10 times. Okay, so moving forward from those revision period, I'll just again emphasize that if you don't have small short notes, you can still make short notes during that break. Just very important things to be written on those notes. Revise them as many times as possible. And I also want to touch on one last point regarding revision. What I ensured after the language exams was that usually English exam gets ended before the 3 hour period, and usually or English or Hindi, whichever you are, or whichever other language you are, you end up early the writing it. You can use the time to check on your memory. You can start with anything. You can start with theories, and you can just test your memory right during the language paper. If you finish the paper within time, you can start writing about the names of anthropologists you remember. If you remember their works and years, you can do same for all the Indian anthropologists for paper 2, because these are the things which get you more points. So you like, this is what I have done. English, when my English paper ended before time, I utilized that 1.5 hour to test my memory, to check all the names I remember. And I remember that I utilized this one entire page of that English exam question paper for writing everything I could remember. So please utilize that time also. So the purpose of these notes is so that you have you have all these names imprinted in your memory, whichever names you have prepared. If you see some names you think that you have not prepared in your preparation, don't worry, because everybody have their own set of notes. They have their own particular anthropologist they want to write. So let's move on to your anthropology paper on Sunday. So this, so I want, so beginning with the first thing you will do, that would be question selection. So there are many different scenarios. There can be a case where question selection can be very easy. There can be case when you are able to quickly find those three set of questions of that 20 and 15 and 15 set, which you certainly know a lot of content about. You certainly know a lot of uh, knowledge, and you know examples and all. But there have been times, like I remember in 2020 2020 exam paper 1, I remember there were questions such that one of each set was a little difficult to write upon. Maybe because the core demand of the question was such that it was not very easy to gauge. So that's why there can be different scenarios. So just in case there are scenarios where there are some kind of confusion as to which question to select, um, I would write on those questions where I know a lot of content in the sense of examples, diagrams. If I have prepared diagrams for some questions, especially true for paper 1, and where if the most important principle is that I should know the core demand of the question. So for example, I remember in 2020 paper 1 they asked about total institutions. So if I don't know about total institutions, despite the fact that I know about social institutions, I have to let another one enter this meeting. Yes. So even if I know about social institutions, family, marriage, everything, but I don't know about total institutions, of course, I won't be able to write it. So if I don't know about the core of the question, I would not write it. Better you also not write it. But if you know the core of the question, this is more important for 20 marker because you have to write 4 pages about it. So there was one question in 2020 which had asked about secular growth. So before 2020, they did not. They had never asked about secular growth before. So it was not a question which a lot. So it was not there in PYQs, and most often than not you will not read about secular growth, but somewhere I read it and I know the core concept of secular growth. So I dared to write that question, even though I felt that I know a slightly little about it, but just because I knew the core content of secular growth, that's why I chose that question, because I know that I'll be able to fill this space with diagrams, and I can write few names which are related to growth. So that's why I would choose a question where I know the core demand of the question. And for 20 marker, you must ensure that you must know several core elements because you have to write 4 whole pages. So this is the 2022 exam. Uh, Yes. So this is paper 2. I wanted to show you especially this the first set, section A, where they asked about Iravati Karve's contribution. The second question was arguments for excluding Narmada Man. And the third question was B.R. Ambedkar's argument on origin of caste system. Now this was something I could write upon, but I was confused. Like, I am telling you how to choose. But then this second set of question, make a critical appraisal of megalithic traditions. Now I read this question and I knew that I don't know a lot about megalithic traditions, and especially if they're of Northeast India. South India we only read about South India mostly. So I of course chose to not write this question. And then the third question set of question, globalization has opportunities and challenges for villages. This sounded good enough because we all prepare for it. The next set, the proto history of Gujarat. They asked to describe it briefly, and further they said that discuss the significance of Gujarat proto history. Now, and the third question was indigenization of Christianity. So I was confused about choosing the first set of the Iravati Karve one and this one, the proto history of Gujarat. So how I decided among these two was that I don't know a lot of core arguments of what I will write in why Narmada man was excluded. Something I knew, cranial capacity and everything, but I couldn't write lot of points. But then I was also confused about proto history of Gujarat. But then I thought that I can this is a slightly analytical part that I have to discuss the significance in international trade. So I decided that I had some names in mind, of course, Dholavira and Lothal. So this being an analytical question, I decided to choose. I have to let other person also enter. So yes, so I chose I chose this third set here because I did not know the core arguments of Narmada man, excluding Narmada man, and I thought that I will be able to write analytically on this proto history part, and the rest were easy: globalization and indigenization of Christianity. So just letting you all know that. Think like that. Can you write 4 or 5 points, or can you analytically think about those points? This is what you have to think. This is how on these lines you should think. This is another. This is section B of 2022 paper itself. This was simple, direct, so we can skip this. Right. So once you select the question, you start writing answer. Now I have some tips for you as to how you should proceed writing. So what I used to do is I would first write. So we have to write 3 sets of 20 plus 15 plus 15 markers, and then the 2 compulsory sets of 5 question of 10 markers. Now, how I proceeded was I would first write 2 sets of 20 plus 15 plus 15, and then I would move on the 10 marker sets. I would finish both of them, and then at the end, do the last set of 20 plus 15 plus 15. Now, the principle behind this was firstly at the start we write very slowly and we think a lot about what to write, and 20 and 15 marker are important set of questions because you can get greater marks there. I'll explain you my reasoning. And 10 markers I would write in the middle. Now my point, the reason was that I'll tell you in the next slide that I micromanaged my time. Now, if I breach my time limit, I would compromise on 10 markers than on other 20 and 15 markers. The reason why is that, see, if you get average marks in these, as you can see in this small table I made, if you get average 50% marks in 10, 15 and 20 markers, what would it be? 5, 7.5 and 10. 50% marks average writing, right? But if you write a very good answer or a good answer, then you will be able to get 60% marks. The difference would be of 1 mark in case of 10-mark question, 1.5 mark in case of 15-mark question, and 2 marks in case of 20-mark question. And this difference actually takes the score from 250 to 300. And that is why, if you want to compromise writing of a particular question, that should be a 10-marker question because the difference there would be of 1 marks or more, but the difference in case of 20 marker would be of 2 marks or more. And that's why I say that I would first attempt the 2 sets of 20 and 15 markers which I have chosen. Then I move to the 10 markers because in the middle, if I realize that I have breached my time limit, I compromise the content of 10 markers and I ensure that I do not compromise the quality of my 20 and 15 marker answer. Now, this time management which I am mentioning is very important. I micromanaged my time, especially in anthropology paper, because I just don't I did not want to just compromise on my any question. I did not want to, and this also worked in ethics paper, by the way. So as you all are aware that you have total 180 minutes for 5 broad questions, each with 50 marks. So you have 36 minutes for each question, right? Which you divide between 10 for 10 markers you have 7 minutes, for 15 marker you have roughly 11 minutes, and for 20 marker you have 14 minutes or something. So I realized that I cannot trace 7 minutes for each question of 10 marker. I cannot trace 11 minutes and 14 minutes. So what I did was I set my timings for uh, for completing those two sets of 20 and 15 and 15 marker. So what I decided was, by the time I finished two sets of that 20 and 15 and 15 marker, it should be 10, slightly less than Savadas, 10 15. It should be around 10 12, and according to the calculation, it should be around 10 12 in the morning and 3:12 p.m. in the afternoon session. So that's how I decided that I cannot track 7 minutes, 11 minutes, 40 minutes, but I should know that by the time I finish one whole set, two whole sets actually, that should be 10 12, and then I will attempt the 10 marker set, and by the time I finish all of them, it should be around 10:48 a.m. And if I knew by then, if by the time I complete the two sets of 50 markers of further set, if I see there is a breach of time, then I would compromise on the quality of 10 marker question. I would ensure that no breach of time is carried on this 20 marker or 15 marker question, because I don't want to compromise the quality of those questions. I would write less on 10 marker question. I would make sun diagrams, flowcharts to speed up, but I would not compromise on my 20 marker and 15 marker questions. Even if there is a 10 marker question which you would love to write upon, that happened with me. I breached my time limit while writing those 20 and 15 markers, and I was writing my 10 marker question, and westernization and modernization came, and it's a very prepared question topic, and I just decided to write less because I was breaching time, and even if I'm breaching time, I would not spend more time on the topic I love, because I don't want to compromise my 20 and 15 marker. So, moving forward to writing answers. Firstly, I want to yeah. So let's begin with the introduction itself. That's how you all. That's how we all begin answering with. So there are different ways, of course, to write introduction. You all must have prepared introductions for some or most of the topics. Then there must be some ways of there would be times where you are just writing introduction, making it up there. So for those times where you are making up introduction, for where you have not prepared introduction, I have a tip for you. Contextualize that topic in anthropology, like write anthropology kind of introductions. You just set the context of that topic. So for example, in one of the tests I was writing for Vijeta, I this short note on prehistoric art. So we could have written about prehistoric art. We could have either defined prehistoric art, or we could have written about prehistoric art in India. We could have mentioned Bhimbetka itself in the introduction. But what I chose to write was that complex human brain, especially the neocortex part of the brain, allowed humans to have symbolic thoughts manifested in the form of art. Example, Lascaux cave art, France. So so what I have done here is I have contextualized this topic in anthropology sphere. I have to again and allow somebody. Yes. So an introduction. If you have not prepared for a question, then try to contextualize the topic in anthropology-like words in the introduction itself. I have another example for you. Am I going slow or fast? Any feedback from the participants? Should I continue in the same pace? Can somebody tell me? Little fast, okay. Sorry, I'll just read the chat once and continue. Okay, I'll go a little. Okay, I'll maintain and try to be a little slow for somebody. Sure. There is another example of how you can contextualize the topic in anthropology like words. So, this question agriculture left farmers with lives generally more difficult and less satisfying than those of foragers. So, I wrote anatomically modern Homo sapiens started agriculture as a means of subsistence about 12,000 years ago in several nucleus areas like Levant. So I tried to contextualize agriculture in anthropology. I tried to put my other knowledge of Levant as a keyword here, and I also tried to write anatomically modern Homo sapiens, because this is how we should mention about this particular species of ours. This is just a tip. If you have not prepared introductions beforehand for any topic you're writing, try to contextualize that topic in your present knowledge of anthropology. Try to connect it with other topics of anthropology. Just contextualize it and write it. As I already said, if you have prepared introductions, they would be great, because pre-prepared introductions, we have already put much effort. So like this question here, describe the major types of living primates. I prepared my definition of primates, so I would write it. So pre-prepared introductions, particularly, I guess you would have memorized certain definitions. That all those are certainly great. This is another example. This question was of giving an account of classification of tribes in India. I started with my this definition I remembered of tribe given by Majumdar. I remembered that. I wrote that. Now, other ways of writing introduction is also a very simple way that we simply mention that this concept is given by so and so. But again, to add value, what is most important is to write it very properly. How? Mentioning the work and mentioning the year of publication of the work. As you can see, Sacred Complex I wrote, the concept was given by Professor Vidyarthi in his work. I should have mentioned the year as well here. In the second screenshot, explaining Sanskritization, I mentioned Srinivas, I mentioned the book year, and I simply wrote, he explained Sanskritization as an instrument of social change, which was also given in the question only. Then another 10 marker Rin. I simply wrote the concept is central to Hindu society and in philosophy of Varnashram and Purusharth. So you can simply write, if you're not able to think anything, you can write simple introductions as well. A key tip for introduction: keep them contextual for the topic, keep them small, don't exceed 4 lines, and we can now move on to value addition. Now again, I am again emphasizing, I am not suggesting you on enriching your content, because that's not possible, not advisable at this stage. Whatever content you have already prepared, I am suggesting you how to play around those already prepared topic content in a way which can help you score more marks, and that is through diagrams, some beautification, which would be making box around diagrams, properly labeling them, maps, flowcharts, keywords, underlining the keywords and examples. I know many of you would have the habit of underlining. I'm again showing you to underline the key things here, because that's very important. Essentially, by underlining and all, you are marketing your content. You want the person evaluating your answers to see that you have this particular information. You are marketing your content. Instead of underlining, if you have very important keyword you want to show, you can make box around the text also. I have evaluated some copies and I have seen that uh, content which is highlighted through underlines and boxes are far more easier as an evaluator to check, and it's likable than those content which has not highlighted their keywords, because that makes the evaluator work. So let's move on to the value addition. So first of all, diagrams. Making diagrams is very important, especially in some areas I know you all are aware about, particularly paper one biological anthropology part. Some of you must have prepared, and even if you have not prepared and you have a slight idea, such as this diagram I have tried to show here, this diagram, that even if you have not prepared diagrams and you remember the concepts such as the shifting of foramen magnum, you can make a very small rough diagram. But that is very important. You must make diagrams in paper one, especially the archaeology part and the biological anthropology part. It's important. Now, apart from making diagrams, we also have to work on beautification. It's important. It helps in getting greater marks. It helps in getting focus of the evaluator. It helps in making our copy stand out from the rest. Now, this is an age old practice of covering your diagram with a box, of writing figure one, colon, and whatever diagram you have made of, name it. Now, this makes us more professional, I would say, and that's why it's advisable. I have thoroughly followed it everywhere. Anywhere I'm making diagrams, I'm properly covering it with box and labeling it. So this was a question about this was again question on skeletal changes due to erect posture and bipedalism. I wrote in one of the Vijeta test, and I will show you how many diagrams I made in this question. This was figure one. This was for page one. This is page two. I again made 3 diagrams, and in the last page I again made another diagram. So in total I made 5 diagrams in this one question of skeletal changes due to erect posture and bipedalism. Uh, so as you can see, I made foramen magnum, skull, spine, tibia, and finally the human feet. And I properly covered all the diagrams with boxes, and I labeled them figure 1.0, figure 2.0, figure 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. You must do this because this shows professionalism, and this shows that this will make your copy stand out. And you must make diagrams for for whichever diagrams you have prepared, right? As you see your question, you should quickly think about, have I remembered some diagram, or do I have a memory of seeing this diagram somewhere? Can I copy it very roughly? Even if you make rough diagrams, make box around it, it will look prepared, it will look professional. Must make diagrams, especially in paper one, especially in archaeology and biological anthropology part. I have some more examples for you. The diagrams I make. This is a Hardy-Weinberg equation के लिए. I remember this very rough chart. This would not be a very communicative one, but I wanted to make something nonetheless. This is a representation, diagrammatic representation of pedigree analysis. This is very rough representation of what is genetic drift and what is gene flow. I would make them wherever possible. And this lastly is basically an infographic which I will come later on. Now again, I want to emphasize: make diagrams whichever you have prepared. As soon as you look at a question, think about if you remember some diagrammatic representation of the topic or not. And yes, and label it, make box around it, beautify it. Another kind of value addition which you can do with your current knowledge is making flowcharts and infographics. This ethnic classification of among the of Guha, base Guha, Negrito, Proto-Australoid, and all. This you can of course write through the numbered format or through pointers. But if you make flowchart about it, I am sure you would be aware about this as well to make flowcharts. But I'm re-emphasizing at the last minute so that you can remember in the final exam. It breaks monotonicity. It might get you some marks more, like half a marks more, but half a marks more is too much in this exam. Next, yeah. So I want to emphasize that apart from flowcharts, you can communicate the information you have through infographics. Like this last diagram, this one here, is about nature man spirit complex. I am sure you all must have also prepared some diagrammatic representation of concepts. But if you have not also, if you're not prepared, you can just while writing you can think about, can I, if you even if you have don't have time, you can think about, can I represent this knowledge in diagram form like nature man spirit. And then this is a I think famous way of communicating little, how little tradition universalizes to great tradition. So try to do all of these infographic, you try to make infographics. Why? Because they break monotonicity, they make your content stand out, they might help you score half marks more in the same content which you already have, and half or 1 marks more is really too much. Then you can also make flowcharts and other infographics if you are short of time and if you are short of content. This is a way, this is how I made this is how I wrote shifting cultivation process in half a page, which I could have wrote in 2 lines also, but I was short of time and content and I wanted to fill the page, so I made it like this. And it might not show that the student knows less, it might rather show that this student has an interesting way of presentation instead. So you can communicate your existing knowledge whichever you have in these forms as well. Now I have some more examples for you all. Again, I'm saying this is nothing but the same knowledge I had. This is very impromptu, I did not prepare these things. So the role and status paper 1 concept, I remember the line, in my notes I wrote that status and role are two sides of the same coin. So while writing, I decided, let me just make a coin and show it like this. It might be a unique way of writing. So I did that. Status is that of a father. Father has some role, socialization of child, getting economic resources. I made a diagram out of it. Similarly, forest versus tribal. What do forest offer to tribals? Resources. They are home to spirits. What do tribal give to forest? They protect and conserve them. So any concept which you already know, try to make infographic around it. It will help your copy stand out. This is ethnicity concept representation. I did not prepare this in advance, I'm telling you all, so that you can also, while writing your final exam, think about, you also have this in your mind that you can make diagrams out of your existing knowledge. I wrote this impromptu in an exam. In group versus out group ka this sense of perceived sense of surplus and deficiency of resources, I just made a diagram out of it. Moving further to paper two. Now, all of this diagrams, particularly the prepared diagrams, are more relevant for paper one. For paper two, uh, you can totally make maps. You can make maps, and you can add a lot of value to your answer, and you can make your answer copy stand out. So, this was a particular question on PVTGs of Gujarat. So I made a map. So we would certainly do this in GS, but most of the times we forget to do this in anthropology. You can simply make a map to represent any geographical thing. In paper two, this will certainly add value. This is how I made a very small map of depicting Christian tribes in an India map of India. Similarly, this one is I highlighted the fifth schedule states in a diagram. I will always ensure to put my diagram in a box. इसमें I have not labeled figure one, but you must do. It will look professional, as I have already emphasized enough. You must, so whichever you, I'm again emphasizing, whichever concept you know have a geography associated with it, show it in a map, because that will help your answer stand out. We don't remember making maps in paper 2. Again, showing you how I made northeast tribes in one of the paper I wrote in a map. Just I made the northeast section, and I labeled the various tribes I could remember. Now this is, I think, 2023 paper, last year's anthropology paper 2. I have put a screenshot to show you all that making maps is literally possible in most of these questions, which although we would not we would not remember to make. So for example, this question, distinguishing between ethnic identity and ethnicity, discuss the factors responsible for ethnic conflicts in tribal area. So we would certainly know a lot of example about ethnic conflicts. But as I already mentioned, there is geography associated with these concepts, which can be represented on a map. I have made one for you all. This is how you can represent. I would have done that in my exam. I have done it in my time as well. You can represent things on a map. It can help you score more marks, and certainly if you're short of time, it can help you fill space as well. All I have done is simply labeled the reason I remember, because the question is asked about factors responsible for ethnic conflicts in tribal area. So the factors I remembered of Northeast: the political factor, demographic imbalance, refugees, scarce resource pressure, everything I labeled in around the Northeast region. Central India, I know tribes are now in minority where they were once in majority. I would simply write that. South India, there are less conflicts, but deprivation of livelihood is one of the important reason for ethnic conflicts. I would label that. So you can actually, so let's move on to the next question. Shivalik deposits, you can make Shivalik deposits on the map. What about this question? Critically examine how the displacement of tribal communities due to hydroelectric river dam projects has affected the women in local context. Illustrate with suitable ethnographic examples. Now, you would surely know the examples, right, of river projects where tribals have been displaced. You would remember some names: Polavaram and Begas have been displaced in MP. You can surely show that on a map as well. This you can make in a corner if you have time. If you don't have time, you can make a big diagram, and this might help you get great marks. So again, I'm saying all the examples which you remember currently, which you have already prepared for, if they have geography associated with it, show it in a map. You can do great value addition in paper 2 by just making maps. I have done this, and I am sure you would remember. Even if you would not remember like 5 examples, no, even if you remember 1 or 2 examples, You can make a small map, put a box around it, label it. It will look professional. Your copy will stand out. Now look at this A part of the eighth question. Discuss the distribution of tribes in different geographical region. 20 marker question. You have 4 pages. You must make a map here. Uh, then the last question, fourth A. Elucidate the problems faced by PVTG. You can certainly show the PVTGs whichever you remember. You like it's not necessary to, of course, you cannot mark all of them, but whichever you remember, you must make maps. Now, another tip for paper 2, whichever knowledge you already have, cross apply the different knowledge, cross apply the syllabus topics in different questions. If you're writing a topic, so I'll show you how. This is a 2023 question. Critically examine how the displacement of tribal communities due to hydroelectric river project, a river dam project, has affected the women in local context. So apart from making diagrams, making a map, which I have already shown you for this question, I'll show you what other value addition you can do. You can cross apply the syllabus topic. See, or this list of topic is something which will not come to your mind at first. What we will write about displacement would be how it affects their social status in society. Women were earlier having egalitarian positions, now lose their equal position. Now they are there are hierarchy between men and women. We'll write about their nutrition, education, health, work, occupation, poverty. We will write all these things, but I'll also suggest you how you can apply other topics. You can mention about NMS complex here. How? Because this is true not just for women, but generally displacement. That earlier in the places where tribes already live before displacement, they have a holistic complex of NMS complex or any other environment and spiritual complex there. You can write this topic properly, like LP Vidyarthi 1963. You can cross apply this thing. Then you can mention about ethnic conflicts. This ethnic conflict, ethnicity is another syllabus unit, but you can apply it here. How? Because after displacement, they this women and in general tribal people can have ethnicity issues, conflicts with other people. Then you can write about cultural relativism here. Cultural way forward may that we must apply cultural relativism principle in policies. You must also mention about action anthropology here. How that action anthropologists should be consulted as to how these policies should be made. Then we should also write assimilation here. How? Because this project of displacement without thinking about how tribals would be affected is an act of assimilation. It's like we are putting them without consideration into the larger society. So you should write assimilation instead of integration here. Then you can write about culture shock, culture loss. You can mention about changes in social institutions. uh, Take topics from paper 1, marriage, family, kinship. Then you can write about tribe caste continuum. How? You can simply write that tribes are moved towards the other end of the continuum, towards the caste side of it. You can write about Hinduization, social change. You can write about participatory approach. Then you can also write these paper 1 topics that in these tribes where they have been displaced and rehabilitated. In some other question, you can write like this, that in after rehabilitation, we should also consider genetic screening of these displaced population and think about epidemiological concerns. So, what I am showing here is to analytically answer questions in a better way. How? By just cross applying the syllabus topics. Instead of writing just about education, health, nutrition, poverty, social dynamics of gender, we can also connect the different syllabus topics itself in different units. Similarly, there are other examples like how can a balance be struck between livelihood concerns and environmental degradation in the context of shifting cultivation, and then explaining the impact of NMS complex on sustainable use. So again, you can write about NMS complex here in the first question. Cultural relativism in policies, you can actually write as a suggestion and way forward everywhere, because cultural relativism is a core principle of anthropology. You can suggest it everywhere. Then from paper 1 you can write these keywords, culture, traditions, belief, rituals, rites. You can mention that because wherever you see a question where uh, because of some change culture is being lost, you can mention these keywords: culture, tradition. Action anthropology, you can again write in way forward suggestions. Why? Because you not just action anthropology, you can also mention applied anthropology. Why? Because these paper 2 has application oriented questions, and that's why these keywords are would be a great value addition. Then again from paper 1, changes in social institutions. This is how you should use the keywords as it is, social institutions, marriage, family, kinship. Then participatory approach. This is again a core principle of anthropology which you can suggest in way forward. Then epidemiological concern. This you can certainly write in this paper 2 part, where tribals have been, through various policy measures or through various government or private related issues, they have been changing or they have been assimilating or integrating whatever is happening. You can write epidemiology here. Why? Because as we know that some tribal population have tendency for particular set of genetic diseases and symptoms. That's why you can mention that we must ensure that epidemiological concerns are considered. Then JFM, like JFM, you remember, is a policy where both government and the tribal people came together. So JFM like policy can be a suggestion. You are cross applying a syllabus topic here. And then Khaka committee I've written because you can, Khaka committee has essentially examples and suggestions for everything. So you can write it literally everywhere because they have suggested on a huge area of topics. So you can actually suggest Khaka committee's suggestions everywhere. Now, lastly, I have some miscellaneous suggestions for you all about structuring and some more things. So this is entirely based on some of my my observations, which were based on some papers I have evaluated and I observed of people writing mains this year. Now, one thing is you must start answering the question from first page itself. That means whatever the question is asked, if, particularly true for 20 marker, I have seen some students start answering the question from second page, because at first page they are writing some subsidiary points to those topics in the first page, writing big introduction. Don't do that. You must answer the question for first page itself, because that gives an impression. If you don't start, what the impression conveyed is that why are you not answering the question, just why are you, just come to the point, why are you just beating around the bush, just come to the top answering. Now, second tip for you all is to structure your answer. Use the statements from the questions itself. I know some of you would be doing it. Use statements and sections from the question itself to form subtitles of the question. This is also basically structuring of your question. What does it do? It helps in communicating that you have understood the demand of the question very well. I'll tell you how. So, this question of 2020, explain the impact of feminist movements on universality of marriage and family structure. How would you structure it? You'll briefly write introduction about feminist movements, uh, and then you should directly come to impact of there is another candidate who wants to enter the meeting. Yes. So, how would you structure this? You would simply write impact of. So, first part of the question would be answer would be impact of feminist movement on universality of marriage, and the second part would be impact of feminist movement on universality of family structure. So, what I am telling you is structure your answer using the statements given in the question itself. This will help in communicating that you have understood the demand of the question very well. This will ensure that you are not writing about anything else other than what is being asked, and you are directly answering what is being asked in the question. Again, another example, Sanskritization is a culture bound concept. Critically comment to assess the strengths and limitation of this concept in developing a theoretical framework to study social change. Now, how will you structure this question? You will introduce Sanskritization, you will mention about Srinivas, the work, and the year. You might write a definition of it, but then you will come to you'll briefly write about how it is a culture bound concept. What all you will write, you'll mention that it's a concept made for Hindu caste structure, where you are imitating the upper caste, particularly Brahmins or Kshatriya. You'll write all those things, and then how will you structure the this question? You will write Sanskritization strength as a framework, and then you will write Sanskritization limitation of this framework to study social change. So you will pick up the statements from the question to structure your answer. Now, giving these subtitles from the question itself is also important because it helps in easy navigation of your answers, easy navigation within your answer. Now, this is particularly true for 20 marker. This is my own observation while I was evaluating copies. Why? Because if I see subtitles which are made from the question itself, then I would know that the student has answered. Basically, I would know that this person has answered the question based on what was asked only. And if you don't add subtitles, I would have to, like, the evaluator would have to put effort in checking out if you have answered what was asked or not. So help your evaluator put subtitles derived from the question itself. Some more suggestions. Another thing I observed in some of the copies were that some students do not proportionately write the different parts of the questions answer. So basically, usually there are two parts of the question and a bigger question like 20 marker, 15 marker. Now you have to ensure that you are writing both the parts of the answer proportionately. Now, what does this mean? So let's see this question: the impact of feminist movement. So if you write this impact on marriage in like 1.5 page, and you write impact on family structure on half page, this is disproportionate way of writing. You must give proportionate spaces to both part of the answer. This I have observed in many copies, and it just makes the evaluator feel that the student has not done justice with the different parts of the question. So proportionately answer your questions. If you have time and content, don't make disproportionately big diagrams. Only do that when you're short of your time and content. Because why? Because you want to show your knowledge through texts. You want to, of course, show that you know anthropology. So don't make unnecessarily big diagrams unless, of course, you're short of time. Highlight your keywords, examples, names, works, year by box or underlining, however. And of course, as I have already mentioned, and you all would know, mention the names, anthropologists' names with the book and the year. And this screenshot I have posted is about how to structure. If you make a neat structure, it looks better, it's readable, and it looks professional, right? So that's why you can structure based on the parts of the question itself. And that's all I have for you all. And yes, all the best, and do it like a boss. So if you all have some questions for me for the next 10 or some days left, you can ask me now.
Ma'am, did you make those short note in that 5 days time span?
Sorry, Neha, I can't hear you. Can you again come again?
Ma'am, those 14 pages short note you made during those 5 days time span?
Yes, I did. So now this is something which nobody would say that you should make notes during those time. But I'm telling you what I did. I was very anxious that I have not made notes, short notes, short enough for revision at this hour. So I was anxious, but all what I did was I wrote very fast. Just I wrote while I was revising, whichever notes you have, just keep it. What I did was I kept it. I was revising, and all the important words which I want to again revise, which I want to ensure that I remember this in the final answer exam. I just wrote that very briefly as I have shown you, SS for Surajit Sinha. So just very short notes. Yes, I made them during exam only. If you have not done so far, if you want to make extremely short notes, yes, you can do. I also did.
Ma'am, did you attempt full length mock test? How many before this time span?
I did attempt full length question tests. I actually at this time. Are you going to write more tests?
No, ma'am, but anxious that I have not written.
It's okay. I don't want to. I don't want you to get affected by the number I have written. Why? Because each one of us have their own strategy. If you have not written yet, it's okay. Believe me, it's okay. Just anthropology give you freedom to just connect your knowledge in the best way during the exam as well. You can surely write good answers. You can, even if you have not written, that's not big a deal.
Will it be wise to write one?
um, if you have time and space, yes, you can write. And what you can rather check is your time and speed. Just if you want to follow my strategy, just micromanage your time and just see that you are able to finish the paper well. Because if you are not able to finish the paper well, you can basically just remind yourself in the final paper that don't commit the same mistake, whichever mistake if you're able if you're making. Just You can keep my note in mind that even if you're breaching time limit, compromise on a 10 marker but not on a 15 and 20 marker.
Ma'am, those 5 days, how did you manage, like right from the fourth GS paper?
Sunday evening is a little tiring because you have already written 6 hours. Especially after ethics, your hand will pain like anything. But I did start revising from Sunday evening itself. So from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I think initial 3 days, I was revising everything for basically the first time, and I was simultaneously making very very short notes. And for the next days, I kept re-revising those notes. So those days is about revision as many times as possible. Whatever is your strategy, I also made small sticky notes, and I stick them everywhere possible on my table and wall. So the principle here is to have great memory, and you just put everything around you so that your memory can work. It's all about revision on those days. Just ensure that you cover the syllabus and do it multiple times. I see a question on the chat. How much part of the syllabus have you completed before going to the exam hall? I again don't want to say anything that demotivate any of you. Um, so basically, there is again some part of the question, some part of the syllabus which you prepare very well, and then there is some part of the syllabus which you don't prepare well, and you try to gauge, you try to prepare them through indirect means. So firstly, directly answer, I would say that I prepared most of the topics, uh, excluding some like paper 2 last topic, rural development, that I did not prepare. Mostly I prepared most of this topics. But now again I would say कि there's a division. Some syllabus topics we prepare very well, some syllabus topics are those which we read from toppers books, right? So I used to refer to the Vivek Bhashme sir's book for those topics which I did not prepare. So even if you guys have some syllabus topics which you have not prepared well, you can, during your revision, refer to some toppers books or notes and read it from there. I'm having a problem in completing 2.1 to 2.5 and 3 and 5 of paper 1. See, even if you have not completed something, don't worry about it. Refer to some toppers books, and those in question answer format. Just check them out. That will also help you in building some content. And usually, if these topics which you have not prepared well, if they are in 20 and 15 marker, don't attempt them. But if they are in 10 marker question, uh, just learn enough content from some toppers book or notes, so that you can able to write some minimum 10 marker content. If you're not prepared, don't attempt 20-15 marker. That's all what we can do at this point. Make diagrams, infographics, big ones if you don't know some 10 marker question, if they have come from a syllabus topic like that which you have not prepared. Anything else?
Ma'am, point or paragraph, what is your experience?
Point or paragraph? Either way. But I think points are more easy for reading. But I have seen toppers copies of both points or paragraph. Whichever way you have adapted writing will work. But in my opinion, points are better to, their readability is better. I think points would be, I think, better. Okay, so we will end this session now. If you have any particular question, you can reach out to Jaisir, and he may share my contact with you all. If you have any particular question, you can ask me directly. We can end this meeting now. Jaisir, can we
Okay,
end?
ma'am. Okay, ma'am. So thank you everyone for joining this session. If anyone have any doubt regarding the same, you can ask on the Vijeta IS Academy official number. Thank you, Akansha ma'am, for joining today's session and enriching all the students for the mains. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all the students.
Selecting the right optional subject for the UPSC exam can be a daunting task, especially if you're aiming to succeed on your first attempt. But what if there's a crucial element that could make all the difference? That element is continuous answer writing practice at Vijeta IAS Academy. Our Anthropology Optional Foundation program offers a comprehensive approach. Not only will you delve deeply into the subject matter, but you will also engage in daily and weekly answer writing exercises. Each of your answers will be meticulously reviewed and critiqued by NP Kishore sir, ensuring you receive personalized feedback to enhance your skills. This approach has already helped many students achieve impressive marks and ranks, such as Akanksha Singh, 311 marks in Anthro CSE 2022. Chaudhary Shipra Vijay Kumar, 307 marks in Anthro CSE 2022. Ajin Kumar, who cracked UPSC in his first attempt, and many more. With daily feedback and structured practice, you will be well prepared to succeed in the UPSC examination. With our focused feedback and structured practice, you'll be well equipped to improve your performance and boost your chances of securing a top rank in the CSE. Don't wait any longer. Enroll in Vijeta IAS Academy today and unlock the proven success formula for conquering the UPSC exam.